Buckle up, little buckaroos. This is Caleb Jones, and this is the Alpha Male 2.0 podcast. Freedom-focused lifestyle design for you, for men. I have been discussing dating advice, relationship advice for men, particularly getting to sex as quickly as possible and as cheaply as possible, and multiple non-monogamous relationships. And I've been discussing these topics and advising men on these topics, writing books about these topics, and writing multiple thousands, actually, blog articles on these topics for over 10 years now. And I really, really like it when, when other public figures acknowledge, or at least corroborate, the exact man-woman dynamics that I've been talking about for a very, very long time. And I recently came across a comedy clip. I like listening to stand-up comics. I don't think that there are as many good stand-up comics today as there were years ago, but I like listening to them. And I came across a clip on YouTube, a woman I've never heard of, a stand-up comedian. Her name is Jen Kirkman. And this clip that I'm about to play, you can find on YouTube. If you're curious, the name of the video clip on YouTube is Jen Kirkman Describes Her First Horny Date After Divorce. And she says so many things in here. It's only about 5-6 minutes long. But she says so many things that demonstrate exactly what I've talked about for many, many, many years. How women are after a breakup, how women are after a divorce, how ASD works within women, when women are attracted to younger men versus when older men are attracted to younger women, and society's view on those things, and on and on and on. I'm going to go through her comments, and this will be a lot of fun. So this is Jen Kirkman. This is the beginning of it.
So I will tell you a story about the first date I went on after my divorce. And I say divorce, I mean separation. I mean the day that you and your partner shut the door and one of you is in the apartment and the other is on the other side looking for somewhere to live. That day that it's over is not actually divorce, but that's the day it's over, right?
So what she's referring to is something that I have discussed before, and that is when you are separated and going through a divorce versus when you are divorced. Those are two different phases. So a few things. Number one, a lot of people will say they're divorced or getting divorced when in fact they're just separated and they're not actually divorced. Matter of fact, many men will pull this. They will tell women, yeah, I'm getting a divorce or I'm divorced, when in fact they are still living with their wife. And still legally married. Hello. And so, of course, women get very pissed off when men find out about this. And the men are like, whoa, what's the big deal? So what? We're not married. We just live together. Yeah, like you're not hitting that. Give me a break, dude. Come on. So this also gets into the topic of sleeping with women who are married. So when you have sex with married women, there's two different types of married women, and they're very different. And that's the point she's kind of pointing out here, is that there are women who are legally married, but are separated from their husbands. They do not live with their husbands. They do not have sex with their husbands. They're not with their husbands, and they are going through the divorce process, or they just begun the divorce process. Therefore, even though they are legally married, they are essentially single. And many times divorces will take a year, 2 years, sometimes even 3 years. My divorce took 2 years, and that's not unusual. So I myself have been in my past, I have not done this lately in the last several years, but I have been with a few married women. Some of these women were indeed married and cheating on their husbands, but some of these women were just going through a divorce and they were technically married, but they weren't really married. That's what she's pointing out here. All right, moving on.
I went on a date 2 days after that day.
Now, so what she's saying is once the divorce or once the separation began, she went on a date literally 2 days after. I relate to this. So in a second, she's going to talk about how horny she was. We'll talk about divorced horny women, but let's talk about one example first, what I went through. So when I got divorced a billion years ago, I moved out into an apartment, and I've talked about how I've done that before. But anyway, I was in an apartment, and I was horny as hell. It had been 6 months since I had had sex, which is the longest I had ever gone, and to this day have ever gone without sex since I lost my virginity. I was freaking the fuck out. I couldn't stand it. And so finally, we had my wife at the time and I had a lunch at a cheap little restaurant discussing the future. And basically she said, I think I want a divorce. Let's fuck this. Let's just get a divorce. And I'm like, oh, thank God. I remember thinking, thank God, let's get divorced. Okay, good. Now I said to her, And I was very clear with her. I said, now you understand what I'm going to go do. You know me. So this divorce may take a year. It may take a year and a half. It may take 3 years. God knows how long it'll take. I am not waiting that long to go take care of business. And she knew what I meant by taking care of business. I was a less alpha then, so I didn't say go have sex. But she knew that's what I was talking about. So I was very clear. And I said, look, I'm not going to wait while judges and attorneys and you and I fart around with paperwork for me to go get laid. I'm going to go get this done very, very, very soon. And once I do that, wife, I won't be able to undo it. Because up until that point, I had not slept with any other women. I had never cheated during my entire 9-year marriage. I wanted to very badly, but I didn't. I do what I promise. And even as we were separated for that brief period of time, I didn't have sex with any other women because I wasn't 100% sure how things would play out. But anyway, I told her this. And she said, sure, I don't care, whatever, do whatever you want. I remember exactly what she said, but it was like, whatever. She just kind of blew it off. I said, okay. So that was a Wednesday. Friday night, I was having sex with someone else. I've mentioned this before. I made a list of all the attractive or at least semi-attractive women that I knew back then through my work circles and social circles. I actually made a list, contacted all the women who are not married and who I would have sex with, and contacted them. And the very first one, the top name on that list, actually agreed to come over to my apartment, and we were having sex by Friday night. And so later, my wife, of course, found out, and she was all furious and pissed off. And I said, hey, I warned you. But again, I was trying to use logic on a woman, and that doesn't work. But what she's talking about here is a lot of people don't wait. I certainly didn't, and I was a beta. And women don't either, as she will continue to describe.
And I felt judged by my married friends, but they didn't understand how horny I was. Because I don't think people understand when you get divorced, you probably haven't been having sex. It's not like, oh my God, we're fucking all the time in this thing of not liking each other. In this home we've built where we despise each other, we fuck all the time. That's not happening. But it feels weird because someone's in your bed and you should be with them, but you're not. So your body is very confused. It's not the same as single horniness. Single horniness is quaint, that you even would complain about being horny when you're single. You're like, oh, I'm kind of horny. Should I call an old friend or maybe get a pizza or just fall asleep?
Now, what she is describing is female horniness. I mean, be honest with me. Have you ever had a thing where you're horny and you thought, should I go have sex or should I just go eat and lay on the couch? You've never thought that, but she has, because that's how women work. When women are horny, especially like she said, when they're single, they'll take other options besides having sex, generally speaking. And yes, there are exceptions to all these rules. So that's the first thing she's talking about. Notice that the way she's describing horniness is probably a bit different than the way you feel horny when you're a guy. She is now going to describe how horny she is. And what's interesting is, as she describes this, listen to her talk about how horny her body is. She will basically be describing how we men are horny all the fucking time, every day. But what she's talking about is when you're going through a divorce as a woman, you are horny, you as a woman are horny like crazy. In other words, you are horny like a man is horny. And that is correct. And I have talked to a lot of pickup artists, player type guys who've experienced similar to what I have experienced, where when a woman is going through a divorce and she's just moved out, or even not even a full-on divorce, if she's breaking up from a long-term boyfriend to whom she was faithful with, these women are horny as hell. If you ever go on a first date with a woman who is now going through a divorce, your odds of getting laid very quickly go way up, because these women are horny as fuck. In other words, they are just as horny as men. So Jen is right about this. It's just interesting how she describes this horniness as this crazy horny feeling, which is normal to us men.
Divorce horniness needs to be taken care of right away because your body starts going into heat like an animal. So the minute that door shuts, you're not in control anymore, and your body's just like, ah! Like my body was just like, I was just following it. It was trying to sit on fire hydrants and stuff. I was like, body, stop it. It was like, ah! Like it was going nuts, you know? It's like if you have to get in the house really fast and you have to pee and your body thinks you're home and you're like, don't wet your pants, buddy! You know, it's that. So I was like, oh my God, I didn't know the horniness of a divorced person.
Right. So again, this is really funny, but it's not funny for the reason she thinks it's funny. It's funny because she's describing this crazy horniness that you and I as men feel, if not every day, all the fucking time. But she's not accustomed to this level of horniness because she's a girl. And girls feel horny differently than men. I've written articles about this. And the bottom line summary statement in terms of horniness, in terms of men horniness and woman horniness is men are horny, women are horny when they're horny. So when women are horny, they're really, really horny. And in many cases, hornier than guys, in many cases. But they're not horny all the time. Sometimes they're horny and sometimes they have no interest whatsoever. Depends on the day, depends the time of the month, depends on the time of her life, depends on her age, depends on what she's going through at that time in her life, depends on what happened to her at work that day, it depends on the weather, depends on what she had to drink last night, what she had to eat this morning, all kinds of factors, none of which apply to you and I as men. We're horny all the fucking time. It doesn't matter what happened that day. It doesn't matter how old we are. It doesn't matter if we're sick. It doesn't matter if we had a bad day or a good day. We're horny all the time. That is a key difference between men and women. It's not that some men seem to think that women aren't horny and women don't like sex and women just kind of put up with sex. Completely wrong. Women get extremely horny, as she's talking about. It's just that they get horny at certain times instead of all the time like we guys.
So I went out to see a band play, which is something I never did when I was married. And I went to, talk to the drummer after. I thought he was cute. Now, I wasn't thinking about how old I was as opposed to how old he was. And that's where the story gets sad.
Now listen very carefully. She's going to talk about something normal and natural and perfectly biologically healthy. She just implied that it's going to be sad. Let's listen to what she says.
As I was 37, he was 20. Yes, I was a cougar for one night. Don't woo. It's not good. It's not a good thing.
See? Very interesting. What is she saying? She was a 37-year-old woman who wanted to fuck a 20-year-old guy, and how bad that is. That's not a good thing. That's bad. That's wrong. Right. I wonder where she got that idea. Where do you think she got that idea? Societal programming, which created in her mind ASD. If you didn't know what ASD is, that's anti-slut defense. That's what a woman is horny and wants to have sex with you, but she refuses to have sex with you because she thinks it's not appropriate. And this would be an example. She's 37, attracted to a 20-year-old guy. I have news for you. A 20-year-old guy is a legal adult. Whether you like that or not, a 20-year-old guy is a legal adult. A 20-year-old woman is a legal adult. There's nothing wrong with a 20-year-old guy having consensual sex with a 37-year-old woman. Matter of fact, it's kind of great. When I was in my early 20s, all of the women were older women, and I had a great time. So it's fine. But to her, it's wrong. It's bad. It's sad, she says, because of her societal programming and because of her ASD. Now, I've talked about this. What do you think happens to women over a long period of time when they have sexual desires that they think are wrong or bad or sad? It causes dysfunction. It causes lots of internal guilt. It causes a lot of internal stress. This also happens, by the way, to men who are very religious or come out of very religious environments. Men who come out of really hardcore Christian or Catholic families. Men who come out of really hardcore Muslim families where sex is bad and sex is wrong. You're not allowed to have sex. You shouldn't have sex. But they're men. They want to have sex. So all kinds of internal dysfunction is created for these men, just like with women who have these normal, natural, healthy, biological drives and urges. Nothing wrong with that. But because society has told them it's bad or wrong or sad, they have all kinds of internal conflict. And that is sad.
See, I was a cougar back when Demi Moore and Ashton were still happy. And so I thought it was cool too. Yeah, older women getting some. No. The reason she lost her mind and had to go to rehab for being 50 was because when you're dating a hot young guy, he's hot and young and he doesn't have to work at it. So he gets to, run around throwing frisbees and whatever young people do all day. And if you're older, you have to sit at home going, don't eat anything. Like, it's a lot of pressure.
That's pretty funny. I actually agree with that. As a man who is almost 50, I myself spend a lot of time saying, don't eat that. So I get it. When I was 18 and in high school, me and my friend Frank would go out every day. We would do this literally every day. We'd go down to the burger joint, the drive-through burger place, and I would have for lunch every day 2 double cheeseburgers with extra sauce, extra secret sauce, plus a hot fudge sundae, plus a carton of milk. I would eat that for lunch every day, plus whatever the hell else I wanted throughout the day. And I looked great. I had very low body fat, great muscle mass. When I was 18, I looked pretty damn good because that's what happens when you're 18. Today, there's no way in hell I could do that. If I did that, I would be much, much, much chubbier than I am today because I'm 50, so I get it.
And that's why they had to send Demi Moore to jail, because she lost it.
By the way, I wrote 2 articles, the Black Dragon blog, on Demi Moore, on how ridiculously stupid she was when she married Ashton Kutcher, this young, stupid, crazy guy in his 20s. And then she was just shocked that he was cheating on her left and right. By the way, while she was cheating on dudes and then blaming him. You can go and look at those articles if you want. They're pretty funny. This is from a long, long time ago, back in 2012, I think. Long, long time ago. But anyway, I digress.
But I was still buying into the myth that being a cougar was cool at this point. Now, let me tell you something. Now I don't think it's cool. There's no word for a man who's in his 40s and dates someone younger. That's just called a man, right? Sometimes silver fox. That's kind of a cool sounding thing. Cougar doesn't sound that cool. Cougar doesn't sound cool like a lion or a tiger, like rah. A cougar to me sounds like an old woman in the woods in a spotted coat. Oh, I hope someone comes by. It's sad.
Again, she is talking about how a woman wanting to have sex with a younger man is sad, how it's wrong, how it's not a good thing, how it's kind of embarrassing. Why does she think this? Now, if she said, look, older women who are 37 should not get into serious relationships with men who are 20. If she said that, I completely agree with her. And the reason is I say that to men. 37-year-old men should not get into serious relationships with 20-year-old girls. That would be ridiculous and stupid on multiple levels. But she's not talking about that. She's talking about hooking up, having sex. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, the good news with her, and I'm impressed that she has this viewpoint, is she is not disparaging men who are older who have sex with younger women. She's saying that that's normal. Well, good for her. A lot of women have a huge problem. A lot of women over the age of 33 have a huge problem with that. And I have written articles about how the very same women who will have a huge problem with a guy in his 40s hooking up with a woman in her mid-20s, these same women in their 40s will hook up with guys in their 20s and think that's perfectly fine. And they don't see the hypocrisy there. So good on her for that. But my point is, I want you to remember that she is talking about being a cougar in the negative, like something is wrong with that.
Don't look up to me with this story, but learn from it. So I talked to this kid. Now, I don't realize he's 20. I don't realize I'm 37. I hadn't been single since I was 27, so I'm still at that age in my mind. So he asks me out for the next night. My body's like, and I'm like, come on, buddy, we can make it one more night. It's fine. So I say yes. I get home. My friend says to me, you know that guy was 20, right? I'm like, who cares? I'm a cougar. This is cool. So he texts me the next night. He's supposed to come get me. And he says, I can't come get you. My car broke down. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm such an old loser. Like, he doesn't want to hang out. He's blowing me off. I've never texted with a 20-year-old, except for my nephew. So I don't know what to say to these kids. And so I was like, well, maybe he'll like the same things my nephew does. And I'm like, do you need money for college books? Like, I don't know. He goes, no, I really still want to hang out. I really just can't drive. My car broke down. So I went to get him. Now, it turns out his car didn't really break down. His car ran out of gas because his bank account ran out of money. So no problem. I go get him. But here's the thing. My life is in transition. I'm moving things. I got furniture in the front seat. I can't move it. So I pick him up at the gas station like some bad mother who just lets her kid hang out. I saw the other mothers looking at me like, oh, you let your son just hang out at a gas station all night? I'm like, hey, he's not my son. I'm going to fuck him. You know.
Again, you can hear and she's pretty funny actually, but you can hear the guilt and how guilty she felt and how weird she felt and how scared she felt about how inappropriate she's being by hooking up with this guy who was 20. And again, she's not talking about having a serious relationship with this guy, because if she was, then I would be on her side and say, you were a crazy bitch. What the hell are you doing? Don't fucking do that. She just hooked up with the guy and had some fun, which is perfectly normal, perfectly healthy, perfectly biological, by the way, and perfectly natural. Provided, of course, she took all the usual precautions. He wore a condom, etc., and so forth. And I don't know, I have no idea if she did or not, but that's my point, is she wanted something strongly, but she felt weird about it the entire time. And I bet during the entire interaction, other than when they were actually having sex, she was probably feeling weird. That's actually the end of her comments. That's it. But I would bet money, I'd bet $10,000 that entire evening when they hung out and talked and then had sex and then wrapped it up and, she left that place or what have you, or she had to drive him back home, whatever the fuck she had to do. I am confident, I would bet 10 grand that other than the moments during which they had sex, she felt really weird and kind of guilty and kind of uncomfortable. And she didn't have to be. And that goes for you as well, you older guys. If you have a desire to have sex, if you're in your 40s, 30s, even 50s, and you have a desire to have sex with a 19-year-old or a 21-year-old, there's nothing wrong with that. That means you are healthy. That means you are normal. That means you are a human being. Congratulations, you're a human being. You don't want society or right-wing conservative traditional bullshit or societal programming or the image of your mother waving her finger in your face. You don't want these things to influence you. These are societal conditions. This is societal programming, which is, as I've discussed in The Unchained Man, mostly false. As I have said, and I've said this many, many times, and I'm sure I will say it many more times, as long as both of you are legal adults and you are consenting, you can do whatever you want with each other sexually, and it's not wrong. Particularly if a condom is used. Now, yes, you could make the argument, if you go out and bang 100 girls out of condom, you could cause some problems, you could get women pregnant, you could get some STDs, yes. But they have a really cool invention called a condom. It's really neat. They invented it quite a while ago. You put it on your dick. If you use it correctly, the odds of you getting an STD or getting a woman pregnant are astronomically small. I've discussed the specific numbers at my blogs. The numbers are astronomical. A teeny fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of 1% if you use the condom correctly. Now, if you're stupid or you're drunk, then that's different. But that's why you don't have sex while you're drunk. I've never been drunk, so I don't have that problem. I don't have sex with women who are drunk either, because I want to avoid any possible allegations the next day. So I am an adult and I take the proper precautions. As long as you take the proper precautions, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing immoral. There's nothing evil. And that goes for men having sex with younger women who are legal and consenting, and women, older women, having sex with younger men who are legal and consenting. And in this case, he was. The entire point of her comments and of this podcast is that you, and when I say you, I mean the royal you, society, we all, except for me, and maybe not you, you underestimate how much sexual and dating behavior in society is dictated by false societal programming that creates guilt. There's so much of that, including in societies that are not very Catholic or not very Christian, like modern day America. There was a time where this was a Christian nation. That time is long past. Even in left-wing nations like the United States, Europe, there is still a lot of angst and guilt and weirdness over the concept of having sex when you're dealing with two legal consenting adults. And there doesn't need to be. The world would be a much easier, happier place. There would be less war. And I'm not making a joke. There would be less war in the world and less violence if people didn't have all these weird, guilty feelings about having consensual sex with another legal adult. And I'm not kidding about this. Who knows all kinds of other societal ills, crime, health problems, problems between countries. Who knows all the problems that are tied into the angst that people feel around the simple, basic concept and the simple, basic biological act of having consensual sex with a legal consenting adult. It's so stupid. And what's fascinating to me is that you have this on both sides. So on one side, you have the angry right-wing traditional conservatives who think if you have too much sex, it's bad. If you have premarital sex, it's bad. If you have sex with a lot of people, that makes you a bad person. It makes you immature. This is a sin. God doesn't like it, right? On the one side, you have those guys. Then on the other side, you have these hard right feminist type women. Usually they're women, but some men too, who think that going to strip clubs is rape culture and watching porn is evil because you're objectifying women. And of course you don't have sex in the first date because she's a sex object. You don't want to treat her like a sex object. How dare you do this? And how dare men even think of women as sexual creatures? That is insulting and evil and terrible and awful. So you get this both from the right and the left. And as I've said at my blogs and demonstrated many times over the years, both the left and the right, generally speaking, are usually wrong on most issues, this one included. So I thought this was pretty fun, and as I run into more clips like this, I will make future podcasts using these kinds of clips. I kind of like these kinds of things. I love it when I hear women in particular, but men too, say things and tell stories that are right out of my content. It's kind of nice. As always, if you need help with your dating life, getting laid, anywhere from getting laid to maintaining long-term happy non-monogamous relationships, you can check out the SMIC program at joinsmic.com. That is my mentorship and audio training program. But until then, I will see you in the next podcast. Have fun. Bye.